Hello, everyone. Good, good morning, good afternoon, good evening,
Hello everyone.
wherever you are.
Good morning, good afternoon. Good.
There was a little bit of an echo. Sorry about that. Welcome, everyone. We welcome you to the release meetup of Netdata version 146. We are extremely happy to announce yet another release with lots of new capabilities, lots of enhancements, and lots of new updates. I'm sure you're as excited as we are. I'm Satya, the Senior Technical Product Manager here at Netdata. And with me, I have Stelios today to give some more details and maybe a short demo about this release. Um, Without any further ado, I think we can get started. Okay, first things first is, of course, all the highlights of this release. We made this release, early this week, and I think all of you have most likely already taken a look at all of these new enhancements that we've made. But quickly going through some of the highlights about this release, and before that, some highlights about Netdata. Like we always love to share what's happening with Netdata, how the community is growing. We see close to 1.5 million downloads of the Netdata agent every single day. We've grown in terms of the number of GitHub stars. We're going closer to the 70K mark, and we really welcome all of you to introduce Netdata to more of your friends, your colleagues, so this community can become even bigger and even stronger. We have close to 636 million Docker Hub pulls. I think this just shows the enormous speed at which we're growing. Apart from that, I think we can straight jump into our release summary. It's been 3 months since we made the last release, and this release is no different to the last one. It comes with lots of new features, lots of new capabilities, lots of new enhancements. So some of them to just name it here. Finally, the dynamic configuration feature is now a generally available feature. It was on beta as part of the last release. We have also made huge progress when it comes to the Windows agent. So the native Windows agent. As you know, in the past, we were making use of the Windows exporter to monitor your Windows servers or your Windows laptops. We are inching closer to, again, a GA release on this topic. We also have the AWS billing integrations and many, many more cool features. Let me do one thing. Let me share this link with all of you so you can also take a look at it along with us. And you don't need to look at the screen. Okay, I think, just give me a moment. There was a problem. I don't think the screen was being streamed for whatever reason, maybe a network issue. I'll go through this a little bit more. Okay, I was just giving the introduction, so you didn't miss much. Let's go straight into the release highlights. As I was mentioning, the dynamic configuration feature is now generally available. It's no longer on beta. What do you see? What are the changes that you will notice in the dynamic configuration feature? First thing is the alerts management. You can create and adjust alerts directly from any chart. You can also edit existing alerts directly from the chart or from the alerts tab. You can also configure your collectors. Currently, we support the Go plugins. Right from just the user interface. We also support submitting your configurations to multiple nodes. In the past, as you may remember, on the beta release, we were only able to submit your configurations on individual nodes. So if you had a big infrastructure, tens of hundreds of servers, VMs, you would have to do it one by one on all of them. But now we support you to create a configuration and push them right away to multiple hosts. This is, I think, especially crucial when it comes to alerts configuration. You might have more or less a similar alert configuration on all of your infrastructure. So it makes sense that you have the multi-node functionality. Let me quickly give you a glimpse of how this looks. So how do you access the dynamic configuration feature? For those who have not yet done it, go to your space settings, click on configurations, and it will show you the section with a list of all collectors. You can simply add a new configuration on an existing collector. You can also, for example, edit a configuration if you've already configured a collector. Similarly, also with health, any alerts that you want to modify. So these may be out of the box alerts that come from Netdata or your custom alerts. You can modify them from your user interface. You could also create brand new alerts right from the scratch. Just give it a name, fill in the form. The configuration will show up on your right hand side. You can copy this and use it on your configuration management tool like Ansible, Terraform, whatever you use to choose. And all of this is available. And while submitting, like I mentioned, you have the option of submitting to the host that you've currently selected or submit them to multiple hosts. Of course, if your configuration is not well formed, you will receive errors, and based on those alerts, you can figure out how the correct configuration needs to be created. So this is from the settings where you can access the dynamic configuration manager. But additionally, even from the nodes tab, you can go to individual nodes and click on configure this node. And it will again take you to the configuration manager on for this specific node. So you can basically configure anything on this node. But if you want, you could, if you want, you could also select another node in there. So this is another touch point to the feature. Additionally, I think what will be useful is on the integrations tab, where you can have all of your collectors. In the past, we were only showing you details on how to configure the collector, what metrics are available, and what alerts are available. But now you can go ahead and configure this collector right away. So if you click on configure, it'll take you to this specific collector. So this is MySQL now. You click on add a new configuration and get straight to the configuration aspect. So we've really improved in terms of touch points on how you can access this feature. Additionally, going back to the alerts, like we mentioned, you could access if you have an alert defined on a chart, you could access it in here. As you can see, it's showing you that you have 3 alerts on this context, on this chart, and all of them are in the cleared state. You could edit them from here. So if you click on edit, it'll again take you to the configuration manager, and you will see the existing configuration and you can edit these. But not only that, you could also create a new alert altogether on this chart. So I go in here, I say add an alert, and it'll take you to the configuration, dynamic configuration manager, and it'll allow you to create a new alert. And the context will be pre-selected. So all that you need to do is put in your logic, submit it to one or multiple nodes, and you're good to go. Additionally, I don't think I have any alerts in here. Let me just quickly move to a space that has some alerts. So yeah. Additionally, if you go to the alerts tab, now you also have an option of editing this alert from the active alerts list. So you can go click in here and say, okay, let me edit this configuration. And not only that, if you're looking at the alert details, even from within the alert details, you have an option to edit this alert. So we've tried to, make your flow of configuration well embedded with the rest of the components on our dashboard, uh, thus helping you to, improve or basically make your configurations much quicker. So that was the first feature that we released. The second one is, of course, I think extremely exciting for all of our customers who are, who have their infrastructure hosted on AWS. Uh, we have our AWS Marketplace listing. We've had this for quite some time now, but now you can also go and subscribe and make your payments through AWS. So this will really help in terms of not requiring additional budget or procurement approvals. You can go ahead and subscribe to Netdata right away from the AWS Marketplace. We have two listings. One is for the annual listing, where you commit a set of hosts that you want to monitor, and the billing frequency is yearly. But we also have the pay as you go or the monthly plan, exactly like we have with our self-served option within Netdata using Stripe. So this is something that we are extremely proud of, and going forward, we'll be introducing more and more such integrations with other cloud vendors, like GCP, Azure, probably even Alibaba Cloud, and so on. But uh, it's something that's a work in progress. For the next topic, I would like to invite Stelios to talk a little bit about the Netdata Windows agent, our native agent, and give you a brief demo about this topic. Over to you, Stelio. Stelio, I can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
I see you talking, but I cannot hear you. Just a minute.
Can you hear me now?
Well, just give me a moment. Let me see if there's some settings. Yeah, let me know, Stelio, if...
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I see the screen popping, but I cannot hear you. Just give me a moment. It may be just me. Let me check with the audience. I hope they are able to hear you. Okay, so everyone else seems to be hearing you, Stelios.
Okay.
It's just me. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm going to put myself on mute. You can share your screen.
Okay, so Windows, a long-awaited feature requested by users. So about a month ago, actually 1.5 months ago, we decided to see if we can actually make it so that we can compile Netdata agent on Windows. So sure enough, work has been done to compile it under MSys2, a minimal system tool on Windows, which provides an emulation layer for POSIX. I'm going to show you what we have done so far with this. So this is an agent running on Windows. We have initially provided a few of the metrics, as you can see: system overview, CPU, disk, RAM, and everything. CPUs, memory, disks are available as an initial work here. Now, having the agent built on Windows provides us some challenges. One of them is, what kind of metrics do we want to collect? And in order to analyze and verify what metrics are available on Windows, we use the Windows Performance Library. So We wrote some libraries in the agent to actually access the metrics that are available on Windows system. And in this initial attempt, we provided an overview as a proof of concept to see that we can actually collect those metrics, properly have an agent up and running, collect those metrics, store it in our internal database, and overall assess the functionality of the agent. Now, a lot of these metrics can be mapped to Linux metrics. So one of the tasks that we are currently doing is how can we map metrics that can make sense to coexist with Linux service if you have in your infrastructure. So one of the work that is undergoing is to identify those metrics that will make sense to coexist with Linux metrics. Another thing that we are working on is to have a way for external plugins. This is currently not available on Windows. As we said in the release notes, as you may have noticed, this is for internal testing so far. So we're actively working on that as well. And of course, installing an agent on Windows is not going to be the same process as we have on Linux. You do not want to go through the process of downloading and compiling the agent yourself. We will need to build a binary that you can download, run an installer, and correctly have it start as a service. So one of the work that we're currently doing and exploring is how to correctly register our data agent as a service, have it running, stop it, restart it, and have all the reliability needed there to provide feedback to the Windows management system that the agent is up and running. We also, in order to be able to compile on Windows, we had to do some restructuring on the core agent that also affects the Linux agent. So a lot of abstraction layers have been added in order to make this happen. One of the things that we took care, and there is actually work in progress, is to get rid of pthreads that we use on Linux. So libuv is one of the alternatives, and will provide us native support also for Windows. So as you can see here, we have a lot of stuff here already available. Again, some of our users have compiled this. This is not a recommended way. Just wait a little bit for the next release. We hope to have a native service for you for Windows up and running. Back to you, Satya.
Thanks, Telio. Yeah, so we're going to be adding a number of collectors also on top. So hopefully, as Telio mentioned, in the next release, we'll have the native Windows agent. And I know a lot of our users and our customer base is looking for this feature. And we are excited to look at it as well. All of us are almost nagging Stelios on a daily basis. Sorry about that. But yeah, I think it's coming out soon. Quickly moving on to some of the other capabilities that we've added. We've added the Okta and OpenID based single sign-on. We've started off with these, but with the OpenID, I think you obviously have the capability to integrate this with other single sign-on clients out there with the Azure AD and all of those. This is available already. Again, it's a feature available on Netdata Cloud, and also for our business and enterprise customers currently, which we also think is where the requests primarily came in from. We're also working on integration on the authorization aspect. So user creation, role attribution, and all of those using SCIM or SCIM. We should also have that feature very, very soon available to all our users. So we'll not only allow you to authenticate you and your colleagues through Okta or any other client using OpenID, but we'll also allow you to have user management through SCIM. I'm hoping it should also be available sometime in the next release, but we'll give you more details once we get closer. Again, for the next topic, I think, Stelios, I'll pass the ball back to you. If you want to share something on your screen, great. If not, I think you have this on the screen.
Yeah, so time-based retention was another feature requested by users, and I have to admit, especially even from inside the team, a lot of people wanted this feature. So the basic idea is we had a lot of users and customers saying, I want to collect and retain metrics for X amount of days. How do I do that? How much storage should I configure Netdata, the agent, to have? And we had a rough calculator that would say, okay, you need to know how many metrics you collect, how many days you want those to be collected, and we came up with a number of megabytes that you need to configure your Netdata agent. Now, that was a very rough estimation due to the fact that there was data compression involved. So when we store metrics to the database files, we do compression. So depending on your workload and the kind of metrics you collect, compression may be more or less efficient. So we used like a number, a compression ratio that was an average of what we came up from experience. And that was not always accurate. So people would just configure a lot of disk space to their agent, and a hacky way to do this is if they realize they've reached their desired time retention, they go back and reduce the amount of disk space assigned to the agent, restart the agent, and let it rotate just to keep that in the desired time range. So what we've done is we actually added a way to configure how many days of retention you want per tier. Again, this is something that it is the first release of this. We may need to improve on this, but overall, you can configure a maximum size of disk space you want per tier, and at the same time, time retention for tier. Now, for new agents, for fresh installations, we assign 1 gigabyte per tier, as it is shown here for tier 0, and 40 days of time limit. And the same goes for tier 1 and tier 2, 3 months and 2 years. Now, those calculations are based on a single node machine collecting a few hundred metrics, maybe 1,000 metrics, and that size we put there should be more than enough. Now you can tweak that and make it unlimited. So you can say, I don't want any size limit, just use what available disk space there is, but actually use a time limit. So all the combinations are seen below. So you can set the size to limit or time to limit or both at the same time. So I can show you, there is one chart that will give you an idea on what's going on here. Let's go back to the Windows machine. And what you'll notice in a Netdata monitoring section, let's just open this. There is a DB engine retention chart. And what we'll show you is the percentage of the disk space you have configured that is being used, and the time percentage of the retention you want for that tier. So for example, tier 0, it means, okay, we have reached the required time retention of 14 days, and we have used only 4% of the storage, which is good. And the same goes for space 1, space 2, and the other tiers as far as time is concerned. Now, one caveat on this is if we actually call the endpoint to figure out the exact retention that we have on this agent, so there is an API endpoint, API v2 node instances, that will show you the retention configured for this. So we have the default configuration of 1 gigabyte per tier. We see here that we're using 3% of the storage. We see here the requested retention, which is 4 days, but the actual retention that the agent now has is 18 days. This is due to the fact that when we collect metrics and we store it in data files, the only way to rotate out and release storage is by deleting an entire data file. So a side effect of this is that this data file happens to have 18 days, and we cannot remove this data file because it would drop below 14 days. So we have to let the entire metrics collected in one data file age enough so that we can remove the data file. In the future change to the agent, we may actually change this so that we can more intelligently calculate how much data we store in data file. So when we rotate one data file, we'll have the exact number of days that are requested by the user. Satya?
Thanks, Telio. I think for those who are wondering why you don't see the charts around the retention that Stelios was showing, I think these are disabled by default. Am I right, Stelios?
No, this one is enabled.
Okay.
So it should be available, yes.
Perfect. Yeah. So this is one of those which is enabled by default. Great. Good to know. Okay. Now quickly moving on. No, I think, do you want to still, I think you already mentioned the database compression, or do you want to cover some more topics around this?
Yeah, so database compression, traditionally DB-Engine and the data files used zlib as a compression method. So back in March, as soon as we released 145, we added ZSTD compression. From experimentation, we found out this is more efficient. And along with the Gorilla compression we introduced in 145, this greatly improved the compressed ratio of our data in the database. So huge improvement. Gorilla compression, I remind you that also reduced the memory usage of the agent as well. So ZSTD compression added on top of that. So what we realized is now, before explaining this, I will give a brief update on how data pages, metric pages are stored to the data files. So metrics are collected into pages and then grouped together into larger chunks of data called extents. So we store extents in the database, and extents are actually what is compressed, in this case using ZSTD. Now, with Gorilla compression, those pages were tiny. And on top of that, using STD compression even achieved greater performance on this. So what we have done is we have done preparation work to be able to increase the number of pages per extent that we have in the agent. This change happened a while back. We're not going to release it as a default. I mean, the increase of the pages per extent just yet, just to make sure everything is backwards compatible if somebody happens to downgrade. And this will have huge impact on query runtime as far as prefetching extents from the database and resolving everything that's needed there for a query to run. So yes, database compression, huge impact. And I have to tie this also with a time-based retention, because Improving the database compression made our previous calculation for disk space storage requirements even more obsolete. So it was even harder to predict based on your workload, okay, how much actual disk space I will need for this. So all in good time. Satya?
Thanks, Stelios. Again, I think we're proud of all this work that's been going in, and I'm sure our users will provide us the necessary feedback. Hopefully, all positive, and I'm assuming it will be all positive. Quickly moving on to some of the other components. So we did introduce the ClickHouse Collector. This came in based on request from a few customers of ours. It's available. So for any of you who would like to monitor the ClickHouse database, we have this collector. It comes with a summary dashboard. It comes with alerts pre-configured. Please try it out and give us your feedback. We are always open for any improvements that we may need to add all the time. The next one, I think, is more about our journey towards OpenTelemetry compatibility. This is something that Netdata is striving to achieve. We intend to achieve this sometime, hopefully, towards the end of the year. But we've started off initially with the units being now compatible with the UCUM, or the Unified Code of Units of Measure, which are OpenTelemetry compatible. Uh, you might have already seen some changes in the units on your charts recently. If you have any feedback, do please reach out to us. I know there was some issue reported around the load average charts, which didn't have the right units because we switched to the UCUM um, units. But if there are any others that you kind of find don't make sense, please do reach out to us. We're always looking for improvements on the product. Apart from that, we have, as always, added a few notification integrations from Netdata Cloud. I think the latest being the Splunk Victor Ops. But for those who've not seen, we've also added in the recent past, Microsoft Teams and other things which have already existed. But I think the Splunk Victor Ops is what has been added since we last released the Netdata agent. This brings us to the end of some of the new capabilities, enhancements that we've introduced in Netdata. Uh, I'll quickly take a look at some, if there are any questions that are being asked. I see one. I'm going to put this here on the screen. Hi, Michael. So your question is, are these changes only available for the cloud users? Or and what about the community users? So the dynamic configuration feature is explicitly a cloud feature. Of course, you can still access it on your local dashboard, but you will need to sign in to the cloud dashboard. So even with the local agent dashboard, as you're aware, you can still sign in to the cloud. So this kind of secures your access. And once that is done, you still have access to some of these features. Right. So I think that's purely for the cloud user. And also, I think some of these features are purely also for our business and enterprise users. So for example, the notification integrations that you have access to. Also, for example, the Okta single sign-on that I mentioned, and the dynamic configuration manager. So all of these features are primarily for cloud users, and also intended towards business and enterprise users. I hope that answers your question. Okay, I think I don't see any other questions, but keep pouring them in while we quickly go through the next section, which is to acknowledge this great community for all the great contributions that you've made. Uh, we can boast of all the 68K GitHub stars and all of that, but none of that would be meaningful if we didn't have this great, vibrant community. We are having contributions all the time, and we've seen some of our community members who are almost spending hours and hours on with us in improving our product. We truly thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Please continue to pour in your love and improving this great product, which we think is going to change how monitoring is supposed to be done going forward. So thanks to all of you. I'm not going to name all of you, but I think you already know who these people are. And a big shout out to all of you. Here are again all the contributions that have been made, you know, by us and also within the community. You have access to all the PRs, uh, all the various capabilities that we've released, especially to the open source agent. Also, the list of bug fixes. Please take a look at them and see if any of them are relevant to you. I think, quickly moving to the deprecation notice. I think, like we'd mentioned in the past, in the previous releases, some of the components usually need some deprecation. And Stelios, if you could throw some light on this around what has been deprecated and what has changed.
Yeah, so for the database disk space usage, we used to have a limit of 256 megabytes, which is really a low number to collect metrics. And if you would configure 3 tiers, which was the default, you would get this old limit. So 256 megabytes for tier 0, 128 for tier 1, and 64 megabytes for tier 2. We upped that limit to 1 gig for each tier. So this on a fresh installation, along with a time limit of 14 days, should be sufficient for most cases. And of course, you can change those in your configuration file.
Yeah, I think also some of the collectors, which are either rewritten or changed. This is, I think, our continuous effort to have more and more collectors on Go plugin. Uh, and what else do we have? I think some of the charts have been reorganized. So as you know, we want to be an opinionated observability tool. So from time to time, we will change the dimensions, the visualization of how some of these context metrics need to be visualized on charts. So there are also some reorganized charts. So if you haven't had a look at them, and if you need to reorganize your dashboards, your custom dashboards, if you've created any, or in some cases maybe alerts if they need to be reset, please take a look at them. I think that's basically what we had to cover for today's release meetup. Stelios, do you have anything to add?
It has been, we enjoyed this release. 145 was on March 12, so it was long due. More than 500 plus commits on this release, a lot of bug fixes. It may sound like we've done just a few things like Windows or time-based retention or integration with AWS, but there's a lot of work involved on this. I hope our users enjoy this and give us feedback to further improve this. And looking forward to the Windows release, let's say.
Yeah, we are all looking forward to it. But I think this is, the time for any further questions. Yes, if you have any questions about this release or some of the capabilities for our future releases, um, this is the time to raise those questions. Please go ahead. I'm giving it a couple of minutes, Stelios. Uh, there may be some of some of us who are slow typers like me, who may be compiling those questions. So let's give it a couple of minutes. Okay, I think there seem to be no further questions, but guys, this is not the end of the world. Please reach out to us on Discord, on our community forums, or even on our GitHub issues, and we'll be more than happy to respond to your queries. Thank you so much, Stelios. It was a pleasure having you, and I'm sure people found it really interesting for all the great insights and details that you provided. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Satya.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Bye bye.